Today I'm excited to bring you a brand new 50mm lens for Leica M mount. This will be my 57th 50mm lens video, so hit subscribe if that's what you're interested in. Today we are looking at the homage to the original Angenieux Parisian Type S21 f1.5 lens, a soft dreamy lens that came in exact amount dating back to the 1950s, remade as close as possible by Light Lens Lab, and they've called theirs the Z21. This week I travelled to Budapest to teach some Leica workshops, so while I was there I got to try out the Z21. I share sample photos of the Leica M cameras, SL cameras and also video footage, everything you need to know about this lens. Big thanks to Light Lens Lab for sending me the lens to test. I do now need to send it back. Welcome, Matt here. So today we're looking at the homage to the S21, the famous Angenieux lens with that dreamlike quality. Angenieux are a Parisian lens manufacturer, similar to say Leica, which were famous for some of their cine lenses, but they also made still lenses such as the S21. That's what Light Lens Lab have recreated, and so today we're going to look at the remake. So here it is out the box. In the box you get the lens and both front and back metal lens caps with a similar cap design to the original. They really have gone all out to make as close as possible a homage lens to the original. The Light Lens Lab Z21, as it's called, comes with a 52mm filter thread, which is perfect because my variable ND filter fitted, so the video footage you'll see in this video was used with the ND filter attached, no extras needed. And then it is Leica M mount fit, so it'll go straight onto your Leica M camera, or I was using it for the Leica SL series cameras for most of this video. This is a 51.5 lens and it's got a vintage rendering. So for me, it reminds me a little bit of the little Sumar 50 f2 vintage Leica lens. The difference is the Leica lens is a lot smaller, but it's not quite as crazy as what we're going to be seeing from the new Light Lens Lab lens, because I describe the Z21 as the definition of an art lens in terms of if you want something similar to maybe the Leica Thambar or the Leica 35mm steel rim, the Z21 gives you those similar dreamy characteristics. Okay, in terms of spec, it's got one-stop aperture clicks with a clickable aperture, and it's got a smooth focus throw with a close focus distance of 0.7 meters. A mount, as I mentioned, and this is rangefinder coupled, so you can use it on your M cameras as normal. The design, I say, is very similar to the S1 if you saw the original photos that I shared. The front lens is quite recessed, which means you don't need a lens hood. It's got 6 elements in 4 groups, 10 aperture blades and some lanthanum infused elements to get the original look of the S21 as close as they possibly could. Here you can see the lens on my Leica M10P in terms of size. It is a reasonably big lens for a Leica M mount lens, but as I say, I prefer to use it on my SL series cameras. But if you're an M shooter, it is a rangefinder coupled, but it is also a little bit front heavy, as you can see the camera dipping forward there. As you can see, it's got the black gloss finish with the chrome fittings, but you can also request it in matte black if you've got a matte black camera, the same as me. Okay, next up, the lens characteristics, and starting with lens bokeh. So I shot this lens both in the daytime and at night to fully check what this lens can do. And if you love bokeh, this lens is probably one for you, especially if you prefer vintage bokeh that has the more bit of a swirl and more of the cat eye bokeh at the edges and the circular bokeh in the center. If we're getting technical, the bokeh balls have got a smooth center with a more defined edge. Now, I know bokeh shape is very subjective. Some people love it, some people hate it. I particularly love this style of bokeh, and I'll go out of my way to get that style of bokeh. But if you want more round bokeh, you could get maybe like a sonar lens, which I also had with me. You can see more round compared to the cat eye from this lens. Lens flare. This lens will flare if you point it at the sun. It's me doing a video clip to try to show you real time what the flare looks like. You get a mix of rainbow flare, every type of flare that comes with flare, but it doesn't suffer from standard veiling flare for normal use. So I'd say it's fine for most occasions. Here you can see some flare in some of my model images from the lamp on the right hand side for that second shot. Sun stars, this lens does actually give you half decent sun stars. I was quite surprised, from maybe 5.6 onwards. Vignetting, there is heavy vignetting wide open at 1.5, but it's gone by 2.8 I would say. And lens glow, as a vintage lens, this has lots of glow in the outer focus areas. Chromatic aberration, yes, as expected, it's got a lot of chromatic aberration in the outer focus areas. Chroma, this lens does smear points of light, especially at the edges. You can see some footage from, say, Budapest, and if you look in the edges especially, you'll see that the points of light start to be smeared towards the outside, and the further it is away, the worse it gets, as you saw from that bridge photo. Okay, what about sharpness? If we look at center sharpness first for the center crop, you can see the center isn't terrible. There is some sharpness to work with. These are all shot to wide open, but they are soft at the edges. This is maybe mid-distance, so if we do a crop first in the center, again, it's not bad, but it's much better from 2.8 and super sharp from 5.6. If we do a similar test at infinity, first we take center crops, and again from 2.8, edges are complete mush. You're probably going to need f5.6, f8 for usable images. Okay, colors. Let's have a quick look at some like real world sample photos. So on the left, you've got raw images, unedited, and then on the right with a color preset added. Link below if you want my Mr. Leica presets. Colors are decent. They're not overly saturated, and all photos were shot with like SL2S. And yeah, no complaints at all with the colors. The main thing is just trying to get your images in focus. Things in the center are much better. Black and white. So black and whites maybe suit this lens even better because the lens naturally has a more vintage look. So with all the glow and things and artifacts and weaknesses around the edges, as long as your thing is in the center, you'll have no issues. And if you want any kind of sharpness towards the edges, to stop down to maybe 2.8 if you're close, and maybe 5.6 for infinity. Now what about for video? Now I know most Leica users don't care about video, but I thought using the camera in video mode would be an easy way to show the rendering and also the sharpness and everything else that comes with this lens. So this footage was shot with an SL2S Leica, and then I shot it in Vlog, and then I just applied a LUT after to try to get it back to some like realistic colors. All the footage was shot wide open at 1.5 maximum aperture. Then I used a K&F variable ND to control the brightness. I found it actually easier to focus for video than I did for photos, and I think also more rewarding for video than for photos. Mainly because it's so easy to miss when taking photos, unless, as I say, your thing is exactly in the middle. And normally for portraits you have your eyes in the top third, which means you're going to miss focus. So video's easier because you can refocus on the fly, where with photos often you maybe focus, recompose, shoots, and that doesn't necessarily work that great with this lens, because you're better to look at the viewfinder and then focus where the subject is rather than focus then recompose, because of I think the lens curvature, when you recompose you miss focus. So the question is it good for portraits? If you're a new viewer, I'm a model photographer. You can find me on Instagram at mrleica.com. So in theory I love these vintage lenses with lots of nice swirly bokeh in the background, sharp enough centers to isolate my models from the background. I am a big fan of arty lenses in general, and I've reviewed most lenses, 50mm lenses for the Leica M mount. I can put a playlist at the end. This lens can be amazing if you get it right, but I'd say it's easier to miss focus than most 50mm lenses I've tested. It reminds me of the Zeiss Biotar Sense5 1.5 with a very fast fall off towards the edges. Check out my ebook if you want to know more about model photography. Okay, what about general photography? In addition to using this lens in my Budapest workshops, I also used it during one of my London workshops. Here you can see real world photos where we're just walking the streets with this time the Leica M10P. If you shoot wide open, you're going to have very soft edges, so as you can see, if you stop down to 5.6, they become usable. In terms of price, Light Lens Lab are listing this for £829. I'll put a link below to find the price in your country. And then that's a lot cheaper than if you ever tried to find the original lens, which is near impossible to find on eBay. Can I recommend this lens? This is a tricky one. I love arty lenses, but this is on the absolute limit of maximum artiness. As I say, it reminds me of the Leica Thambar 90mm lens, which I found a bit too soft. If you're bored of bland clinical images from your modern lenses, this lens might just be the breath of fresh air that you're looking for. That being said, it's not going to be for everybody. If you want a one lens, do everything lens, then this one might not be for you. That being said, if you're looking for that one unique lens to give you that special look, maybe for wedding photography, for portrait photography, even product shots, it will give you something different to pretty much every other lens. but just be aware that you're going to have to be a bit more careful with your focusing, because as I say, the focus falls off a lot towards the edges, so you can't simply focus in the center, recompose and shoot. I've shot almost all the popular 50mm lenses, or most lenses, for the Leica M-mount system, especially for portraits, and I probably misfocus more photos with this lens than any other lens I've ever used, except maybe, as I say, the 75mm Biotar. Both lenses have exactly the same issue, if you want to call it issue, where you misfocus when your eyes are off center. One thing I can actually recommend is this tiny reflector, which I found on Amazon thanks to one of my patrons. This little reflector is about £4, less than £4 I think on Amazon, and it folds up to fit in a little 3.5 litre Wotan craft bag, gold one side, silver the other side, and it just gave us a nice pop of light when taking photos under the trees, as you saw just there. I can put a link below to Amazon if you want that little reflector. And to recap, this lens, it's going to be like Marmite, as we say. You're going to either love it or hate it, depending on what you thought of the images shared in this video. If you want a cinematic lens with lots of character but a bit more predictable, also check out the Light Lens Lab 1966 51.2. I can link all my 50mm lens reviews here. Subscribe for more and hope to see you in the next video.